What up, world? Established Rich coming right back at you. And today we got to talk about Karmelo Anthony's new appeal, his high-powered legal team, and why the judge may have become the biggest problem in this whole case. And let me start with the part that should never get lost. Austin Metcalf lost his life. His family is living with a pain that no court motion can erase. But Karmelo Anthony was also sentenced to 35 years in prison. And when the state takes that much of a young man's life, the process has to be clean. Not mostly clean, clean. That is why this appeal matters. The new defense team is not just saying they don't like the verdict. They are saying the trial had real constitutional problems, and they want a new trial with a different judge. And the reason the judge is such a big part of this is simple. After the trial, he went on camera and defended his own work.
Did the jury get it right?
Yeah, they did. You know why? Because they were picked based upon the law. They listened to the facts that happened here in this very courtroom, and they got a verdict. And so that's the process. And whatever they say, they get it right.
There's going to be a lot of scrutiny over voir dire. Mm-hmm. And you denied the defense and the dismissing of 3 jurors who at least identified as African-American on their bioforms. What did you make of that moment?
Well, that's not exactly how it works. The defense didn't dismiss them.
I'm sorry, the defense raised an objection.
They raised an objection, yeah. They have raised an objection. Like I told you before, as long as I follow the law, I sleep well at night. And I'm telling you, I follow the law in that case. Did I know what the perception was going to be? Sure. I knew in the back of my mind what the perception was going to be. But I'm not here to satisfy perceptions. I'm not here to satisfy agendas. I'm not here to do any of those things. I'm here to follow the law. And I did it to a T. And I'm proud of that. Very proud of that.
This is where a lot of people started saying, hold on. The judge is supposed to be the one person in the room who don't look like he's trying to win the argument. He don't need to do media. He don't need to explain himself to the public. And he don't need to sound like he's protecting the verdict. But once Judge Roach started defending the camera ban, defending the access limits, defending the jury process, and talking about the case after the sentence, he gave the defense a whole new angle. Because now they can say, how can this same judge review whether the trial had problems when he already went public saying the process was fair? That is not a small question. The issue is not just whether he believes it was fair. The issue is whether he still looks neutral after putting his opinion in front of the cameras. And in a case this emotional, this racial, and this heavy, appearance matters. You had a black teenager on trial. You had a white teenager dead. You had no black jurors seated. You had limited public access. And you had no cameras inside the courtroom. So the judge had to move like somebody who understood every decision would be questioned. Instead, after the verdict, he made himself part of the story.
Karmelo Anthony's new team of high-powered lawyers are going scorched earth on the judge who oversaw the teen's trial that ended with him being convicted of murdering fellow athlete Austin Metcalf at a track meet.
He put his hands on me. I told him not to. He put his hands on me.
We have the hundreds of pages of documents claiming the judge overseeing the trial made some major errors. Now, Anthony's team is calling for the guilty verdict to be thrown out entirely. We will also talk about an alleged off-the-record deal that Anthony's defense team made with prosecutors that his new lawyers say set the now convicted teen killer up for failure. Here are the dozens of pages filed in court in Texas by Anthony's new legal defense team. Last month, the Stand with Karmelo Coalition announced 6 big-name Texas lawyers would be taking a fresh look at the case and trial that ended in a guilty verdict.
This is why the appeal is bigger than just people saying free Karmelo or lock him up. This is the internet version. The courtroom version is different. The court version is about whether or not the trial was conducted in a way that can survive review. The defense is raising questions about public access. They are raising questions about whether or not Karmelo's right to testify was affected. They are raising questions about self-defense. And they are raising questions about whether the judge can still be the one to handle post-trial motions after his public comments. Now, to be fair, the prosecutor is saying the defense is mischaracterizing what happened. They are saying the trial was ethical, the jury heard the verdict, and the verdict was fair. So this is not automatic. Karmelo does not walk out just because new lawyers filed papers. But that doesn't make these motions weak. Because if you on the defense, the judge's interview was a gift. He could have stayed quiet He could have let the record speak. He could have let another court review the case without adding his own public defense to it. But he chose to talk. And once he talked, the defense got to say, this man has already shown how he feels about the trial.
Karmelo Anthony was found guilty of murdering in the stabbing death of Austin Metcalf at a Frisco track meet. Anthony was sentenced to 35 years in prison. During the appeals process, Anthony took on a new legal team. Today, they filed two motions, one for the judge to be removed and then the other for a new trial. Let's talk about the motion to recuse first. In the court documents, the grounds for recusal centers around an interview given just days after the jury's decision. Documents say Judge R.I.C.H expressed personal opinions about the propriety and correctness of the jury's verdict, the fairness and the trial and the correctness of the judge's own ruling during this trial. Now, Russell Wilson says that this case remains a pending or impending proceeding and thinks that these comments can influence future rulings from the judge. On the motion for a new trial, Anthony's legal team took issue with multiple points, including the tight restrictions about who could view the trial, saying that the courtroom was effectively closed to the public, claiming it violates the Sixth Amendment to a public trial. We should note 27 members of the public were allowed in the courtroom, but we weren't allowed to stream the proceedings.
This is the main point. A judge cannot look like he's grading his own paper. If the defense is asking for a new trial because of things that happened in that courtroom, why should the same judge who ran the courtroom be the one to decide whether those complaints have merit, especially after he went public defending the very decisions that are being challenged? That is why so many people feel like something was off. It ain't just a verdict. It's the way the whole process looked from the outside. The courtroom was hard to access. The trial was not televised. The public had to trust the process they could barely see. Then the judge came out afterwards explaining why his process was right. That does not build trust. That makes people more suspicious. And let me be clear, questioning the process don't mean we disrespecting Austin Metcalf. It don't mean Karmelo is innocent. It doesn't mean the jury had no reason to convict him. It means when the case is this serious, the system has to be above reasonable doubt too. Not just the defendant, the system. Because if people believe the judge was too personally invested, if they believe the courtroom was too closed off, if they believe the jury process left too many questions, then the verdict may stand legally, but the public trust gets damaged. And the public trust is part of justice. And this is why this new legal team is coming straight at that judge. They know the judge's comments makes this appeal feel different. They know a recusal motion is about more than personality. It is about whether or not the next stage can look fair. And in my opinion, after those interviews, it is hard to argue that this judge should be the one reviewing his own trial. Let another judge look at it. If the trial was clean, then it should hold up. If the jury selection was legal, it should hold up. If the self-defense instructions were proper, they should hold up. But let somebody else make that call. Because the moment a judge goes on camera defending his own decisions, he makes it harder for people to believe he can come back later and say, maybe I got something wrong. So I'm going to take y'all out like this. Austin Metcalf deserves justice. Karmelo Anthony deserves due process. And the public deserves a courtroom where the judge don't look like he's doing post-game interviews after the verdict. This appeal is not just about what happened under that tent. It is about whether or not the courtroom that decided it was fair, open, and neutral as it needed to be. And if the answer is yes, let another judge confirm it. But if the answer is no, then 35 years is too much time to let a questionable process go unchecked. But hey, that's just my opinion. What's yours? Like, comment, subscribe, establish rich. I'll be back with another one. Peace.